my name is Jessica Eaton, and today I'm going to share with you my TLC plan. Uh, I chose to do The Great Gatsby, and it is a reading with writing and speaking and listening integrated. So, speaking and listening comes from our formative assessment, which is a Socratic seminar, and then writing comes with our summative assessment, which is a research literary analysis paper. So I chose The Great Gatsby because it's one of those novels that every student usually is assumed that they read. I know that a lot of my professors in college would reference The Great Gatsby, and I never read it in high school, and I felt like I was behind because of that. And I also chose The Great Gatsby because it is one of my favorite novels, and I am so excited to teach it in the spring to my American literature class. So I thought that this TLC plan would be a great springboard into beginning that process. My students that I have, so I teach at a private Christian school, and so many of my students have been together since preschool. All of them are in the middle to upper class, and they know each other. Sometimes they act more like siblings than they do students. So I really don't have a problem with getting them to collaborate, to participate. They're always willing and open because they know each other so well. However, I do sometimes have a problem with complaining and bickering, and I think that's just because students know each other so well. So one way that I've combated that is just to come up with some classroom agreements, and if we need to, we review them, and that's kind of helped cut down on that stuff. Some of my big idea questions that I wrote for this unit, because it is F. Scott Fitzgerald and because it's The Great Gatsby, we are going to be looking at the American dream. So first and foremost, what is Fitzgerald's evaluation of the American dream? It's not always the common assessment of it. What is the American dream, and is it achievable for all people? How has modernism affected American literature? We will have just studied the Scarlet Letter, and so to see the changes that come about around World War I, around the Great Depression, around the Prohibition, all of these things is going to be really exciting for them. What is success in America? Is there a dark side to the American dream? This is something that Fitzgerald definitely touches upon, and I want students to think about that. How are you as a junior in high school affected by the American dream? A lot of scholars say that the American dream is dead, but if we look at our national situation, if we look at just different ways that people talk about America, I think that it's alive and well. And how does this affect them in high school, especially when they're already in the middle and upper class? So some of my assessments that I have chosen are first and foremost my pre-assessments, and these are more anticipation guides because it is a reading unit. And so my first one is the Great Gatsby Anticipation Guide. I have statements that I've written, and students will decide whether or not they agree with it and qualify why or why not. So these are major themes that they will see and encounter throughout The Great Gatsby. First is you should choose to marry someone because of their financial state. Do you agree, disagree, and why? The higher the social class, the better the person. Agree, disagree, why? Crime is okay if it can be justified. Agree, disagree, why? So all of these are just getting my students ready to start thinking about these things. And the second one is just a fun little Are You a Modernist quiz. It asks questions about what modernists believe, and students agree with them or disagree with them. So it's just getting them to start thinking about the different attributes of modernism. As I mentioned, my formative assessment that I chose, well, one of them is the Socratic seminar, and I love the Socratic seminar because it helps me to see where my students are at. Based on the questions that they ask, based on their responses, I can really see if they're getting it, if they are meeting their learning objectives, if they're really starting to think about those unit questions and those chapter questions. And then I also have just some exit tickets and quizzers, which are one-question quizzers that tell me whether or not students read, which can sometimes be a struggle. My two favorite lesson plans are first, my very first lesson plan. This is the American Dream pre-reading. So I give students a crumpled up piece of paper and I put a trash can at the front of the classroom and I tell them, okay, from your seats, without standing, without moving, try to throw your paper into the trash can. So students get some tries, one or two depending on time. And then I ask them, why do you think we did this? what could this symbolize? And so eventually one of them catches on, and then we have a conversation about the American dream. And then after that, we go to some learning stations. We have one where they analyze the American dream. I have one where they talk about the lost generation and the themes of their novels and their literature. And then another one where they will talk about, modernism. They talk about modernism. So they read an article and discuss it. And then my second favorite lesson plan is the TMZ reporter plan. This goes along with chapter 3, and so my students pretend that they are gossip reporters for TMZ, and they go to the Gatsby party. And they have to answer some questions such as what was or who was at this big red carpet event? What was the general mood and atmosphere? What are some of the rumors that are circulating about Mr. Gatsby at this party? What does this party tell us about the state of American high society? So all of these questions is kind of getting them to dig into the American dream, honestly, American society, and starting to think about who Gatsby might be. And so this is just kind of a fun way to mask that analysis, because sometimes it can be difficult to get students to do that. So finally, what did I learn from planning a unit? I learned that I do not plan enough. I learned that what I'm doing now as far as planning units is I plan week to week, whereas really I should be planning with the big picture in mind. What is my essential question, and then go from there, rather than building up to it. So I really appreciate that it had me look at the big question first. What do I want students to know, and then how I can achieve that. And then the TLC as a planning tool, my favorite thing about it is that it has me look at my students first. It doesn't have me look at unit questions. It doesn't have me look at goals or objectives. It has me look at my students. How can I plan for the students that are in my room? And I think that's also just something that I struggle with right now. I get a plan out there and then I put my students into it. How can I make this fit? How can I make my students fit to this plan? Whereas it should always start with my students. I will be a more effective teacher when I plan from my students than I will be if I plan from a unit question. So I really look forward to implementing this TLC plan into my classroom in the spring.